2023 was Yamaha's first winless season for 20 years in MotoGP. It's a headline stat and one that's shocking to take in, but after the struggles that Yamaha encountered this year, it's one that's hardly surprising. Yamaha's season was underlined by a lack of acceleration and an on-the-limit front-end feel. In MotoGP, we always say that the race that never ends is the development race, and it's a race that Yamaha have been far from winning for a long time now. Yamaha came into the year with almost exactly the same motorcycle as they ended the 2022 season with. After trying multiple different aero setups and chassis, they reverted back to what they know and stuck with it in the hopes that their new engine alone would power them to progress. What we now know is that hope did not materialise. The core of Yamaha's problems in 2023 came from their inability to qualify on the front two rows of the grid. Remarkably, between Fabio Quartararo and Franco Morbidelli, Yamaha's only featured on the front two rows 3 times in the entirety of the 2023 MotoGP season, something that just a few years ago was unthinkable. The riders put their struggles down to one thing mainly, that with new tyres they couldn't extract any extra performance out of the M1 compared to their race pace. It seemed that a combination of a front end that felt on the edge and an engine that was too aggressive was making the M1 a nightmare to ride when pushing for a fast lap. The engine character was even accredited to causing some of the turning problems the riders faced during the year. Despite being unable to compete on one-lap pace, the M1 was still incredibly strong in race pace. Throughout the year, we often saw Quartararo and Morbidelli exhibit strong pace in practice, and on several occasions they showed that good pace to an extent in the race. Morbidelli was quick all weekend in Argentina and took a pair of fine fourths. The very next round in America, Quartararo was able to charge to third on Sunday, with his late race pace being a key factor in that. But the middle section of the year was where Yamaha severely struggled. In the 7 races from Mugello to Misano, both Quartararo and Morbidelli would only finish in the top 10 twice on Sunday. Their qualifying was ruining both their sprint and Grand Prix, with the main challenge being their difficulties when overtaking. Quartararo had yearned for more acceleration from Yamaha, and they had delivered with the 2023 engine somewhat, but with more power, their lack of rear grip issue from the season prior certainly didn't get any better. Yamaha went chasing improvement in the only ways they could, aerodynamics and electronics. In testing, Yamaha tried multiple different higher downforce aero setups, with almost all of them being dismissed not long after they were tested. Only one made it to the tracks for an official Grand Prix weekend, and while it helped to reduce wheelie so they could use more torque and accelerate faster out of the corner, it didn't help with the feeling and balance of the bike. And so, when Yamaha turned up at tracks with faster and more flowing corners, they found themselves dismissing the higher downforce aero upgrade and reverting back to their original aero from the start of the season. It's perhaps not much of a surprise. Trying to brake and accelerate harder with a more V line in the corner isn't something that comes naturally to the inline 4 M1. The very reason they were fast in practice and not in the race is because they could use their own fast sweeping lines that they need to carry their corner speed and be quicker out of those corners and onto the straights. When they were locked in battle in the races, running those sweeping lines left them vulnerable behind, and sitting behind other riders only heightened tyre temperatures and pressures, making it almost impossible to outbrake those in front. Post-Misano test, things did take a turn for the better for Yamaha. In India and Indonesia, Quartararo took 2 Sunday podiums in 3 races. The last time he was on the podium with such frequency was when he took back-to-back wins at the 2022 Catalan and German Grand Prix, his most recent wins incidentally. Frankie also found solid Sunday form from India onwards, with a solid 7th then backed up by 2 more 7ths in the remaining races of 2023. Quartararo, though, would continue to find the better results of the two, with a pair of 5ths on Sunday in Thailand and Malaysia being a remarkable effort for a bike that's far from the benchmark machine this year. For Yamaha, though, the results in the latter half of the season weren't their top priority. Instead, it was much more about learning as much as they could for next season. There's been a lot of debate about which direction Yamaha should go in for 2024, and when test rider Cal Crutchlow turned up for his wildcard weekend in Motegi, he spoke frequently that instead of more power, perhaps the bike needs a smoother engine and maybe even one that's a little slower. with the Brit pointing towards rear grip being the key for Yamaha to make progress. At the end of season Valencia test, he was keen to make clear that the new engine spec wouldn't be the step Quartararo would have been hoping for, but it is one that Cal believes is on the right track to making Yamaha more competitive in 2024. Improvements aren't all down to just their engine though. Yamaha also looked at aerodynamics options in Valencia, and Quartararo admitted that they found something interesting, but more work is needed. They're working on the chassis side too, to hopefully find that turning and front feeling they lost this year. The positive thing for Yamaha is that next season they'll receive concessions. Free engine development, more engines, more tyres, and more wildcards will all go a long way to ensuring Yamaha's development, so long as they put the groundwork in. And Crutchlow stressed this highly that their testing regime has to be more frequent in 2024. Another positive for Yamaha is that Alex Rins also steps into the seat vacated by Frankie Morbidelli. A successful rider with the inline-4 Suzuki and successful with a drastically different V4 Honda this year, there's little doubt about Yamaha's rider lineup for next season. In fact, they have one of the strongest pairings on the grid. Now it's over to the factory to provide them with a bike for success to follow.
To see more from the biggest MotoGP season, click here and subscribe.